Okay, just quickly here are the answers from last lesson to the 9 questions that you had. List 6 stakeholders in human resources: employers, employees, employer associations, unions, government organisations and society. Which stakeholder represents the employees? The unions. Which stakeholder represents the employers? Employer associations. Name the main workplace law in Australia: Fair Work Act 2009. Identify the legal document which lists the workplace conditions for an entire industry, that is the award. The legal document that lists workplace conditions for one specific business is an enterprise agreement. 4 processes of human resources are acquisition, development, maintenance and separation. 1 type of monetary reward: bonuses, shares, a whole bunch that you could have put there. And the difference between ethno and geocentric staffing supply: ethnocentric only hire workers from one particular culture or country; geocentric hire workers from any location, only consideration is their skills. Okay, so we're up to the final main dot point in the human resources unit. So once again, just reminding you to look at those learn tos. This is the last time that I will be saying, hey, look at the human resources learn tos, because we'll be starting our next topic soon. Okay, so our final dot point is effectiveness of human resource management. There are 7 main indicators used to measure employee satisfaction. So we look at the corporate culture, we look at the idea of benchmarking key variables, changes in staff turnover, absenteeism, accidents, levels of disputation, means disputes, and overall worker satisfaction. Number 1, corporate culture. So a corporate business workplace culture refers to the values, ideas, expectations, and beliefs shared by members of the business. So, for example, Google aims to build a fun and friendly team-based culture through group meetings, free meals, and shared leisure activities. They then measure the effectiveness of this culture through employee satisfaction surveys. Okay, the indicators that reveal a workplace has poor corporate culture include having high staff turnover, poor customer service, high levels of absenteeism, accidents, disputes, and internal conflicts. So, how do we build a great workplace culture? Well, a fun atmosphere, pay more than basic rates and some share options, high quality personal relationships, creative perks, especially health and training. For example, Friday, massage reward day, that'd be nice. Flexible and family friendly practices, high levels of training and mentoring, a culture of trust where there's transparency, impartiality, and equality for everybody, and collaboration across all levels and involvement in decision making. Benchmarking key variables. Okay, so benchmarking is a process in which indicators are used to compare business performance between internal sections of a business or between businesses. So, for example, McDonald's uses 2 main human resource benchmarking measures. Number 1, they compare each individual store's profit to other stores in their franchise, or they look outside of their business and compare their total profit against competitors such as KFC. Why is this useful? Okay, so the purpose of benchmarking is to compare a business's performance, I think I already said this, in specific areas against other similar businesses or divisions, or against best practice businesses. The aim is then to initiate change to foster improvement. Many businesses report they improve their process performance after undertaking benchmarking. So you look to see what the best companies and businesses out there are achieving, and you compare that to what you're achieving, and then you make changes so that you can hopefully start hitting those higher marks like the best practice business. Benchmarking is undertaken commonly in a number of ways through networking. So networking through informal discussions with colleagues in other businesses, undertaking visits to other businesses, researching best practice online and attending conferences. Comparing the performance levels of a process or activity with other businesses, or comparing performance levels with those of another best practice business in specific areas. I mentioned that already. And measuring whether the activities of a business are meeting its objectives as were established in the strategic plan. Okay, changes in staff turnover. Staff turnover refers to the separation of employees from an employer, both voluntary and involuntary, through dismissal or retrenchment. Sometimes staff turnover rate can be called the separation rate, but staff turnover is the more commonly used term. Okay, an increasing staff turnover rate may indicate growing employee dissatisfaction with their workplace. It is often shown as a percentage of total staff numbers. For example, if Woolworths employed 100,000 workers in 2012 and 75,000 in 2013, what would their staff turnover be? Okay, so they had 100,000 and then they only had 75,000. So 25,000 staff are no longer employed. So 25 divided by, which one? 100,000 or 750,000? Well, probably 100,000. So 25 divided by 100,000 times 100 over 1 will give you your percentage, and that will tell you the percentage of staff turned over by Woolworths. I'm going to pause for a second and do a quick calculation. And now that I paused it and did the math, all you mathematicians went, it was 25%. You're correct, 25%. So if you're losing a quarter of your staff, obviously there's an issue. Math. What are the costs of staff turnover? The costs of high labour turnover are great, including high costs through payouts for entitlements, hiring, inducting and training new staff. When we say payouts for entitlements, say somebody had X amount of sick days or holiday days still owing to them, they'd still be owed that money. Productivity and service quality. This is a major issue in hospitality and hotel industry. If you're losing staff, having to replace, retrain, you're not necessarily getting the same quality level that you had from employees that have been with you for quite some time. Corporate skills and knowledge are lost, particularly if there's been poor succession planning. So you lose people, you lose their knowledge, you lose their experience, and if there hadn't been like mentoring and training programs going on, you might not have people ready to step in and be able to take on the roles that those people that have left were fulfilling. Okay, lack of a focused workplace culture in such an environment reduces employee commitment and loyalty. So if you see a lot of staff around you continuing leaving the business, it's not really going to do much for staff morale. Absenteeism. This refers to employee absences on an average day without sick leave or leave approved in advance. High levels of absenteeism and or lateness may indicate that workers are dissatisfied or that they are in conflict within the business. A high level of absenteeism could be an indication of employees suffering low morale and dissatisfaction in their work. And an example here is National Australia Bank experienced growing levels of absenteeism during 2010 after introducing new work practices such as greater use of technology. Management practices changed as a result of this indicator. Okay, so if new technology was out of the business and all of a sudden people were having a lot of sick days, that would indicate that they potentially are stressed by having to learn new systems that this technology involved. So a way to maybe counteract this would be to offer some professional development and training so that people felt more comfortable with the technology, maybe having some in-house consultants working in the business for a period of time so that if people had questions, there was somebody there who immediately could help them out and show them what they needed to do. Okay. When sickies go wrong. Okay, so I've put a little video here. It is a bit of fun, but it actually really happens. What have I got on my screenshot? It's Anzac Day, my birthday, and I admit I have overindulged, so I'm taking into account one of the golden rules, be fit for work, and I'm not going to be fit for work, so I won't be there. Okay, that's not the example that's in the clip, but we all know what a sickie is. Okay, accidents, another indicator. So an increase in the rate of accidents could indicate an ineffective training program. Workplace and healthy safety training programs will need to be modified. When it comes to accidents, we have both direct and indirect costs. So direct costs of an accident that takes place in the workplace include things like medical bills, compensation and insurance. Indirect costs, wages still have to be paid, time is lost, there's potential contamination, wastage, production delays, repairs required, fines could be issued if there's an unsafe working environment, and obviously there's a low morale of your staff if you see somebody that you work with get hurt on the job. Statistically, looking at accidents, employees most likely to experience an injury at work are young males engaged in physical work, followed by tradespeople, labourers, and transport workers. Professionals, or traditional what we call white-collar workers, suffer fewer accidents at work. Women in hospitality and health-related services experience high rates of injury. The most common type of workplace fatalities are associated with road crashes, particularly for tradesmen and transport workers, while injuries are associated with lifting, pushing and pulling objects or being hit by an object. Overall, the total cost of work-related injuries and deaths in Australia is more than $60 billion per year in direct and indirect costs. So accidents are expensive and they are something to be avoided. Again, worker morale, particularly we're talking from a human resources standpoint here, worker morale is just going to deteriorate if people are getting hurt on the job. Best practice businesses. Okay, when it comes to accidents, those businesses that are employing the best practices have regular safety audits and comprehensive safety programs and use data to improve. So if there are any small accidents, they see where they're happening and make whatever adjustments are required to stop the accidents from happening. Best practice businesses build a culture of safety. They communicate effectively about health and safety using visible policy statements, safety signs and reminders. They provide careful induction and regular ongoing training for staff to ensure that they're aware of safety rules and prepared for actual emergencies. They consult employees and health and safety personnel on any implications of any changes made in the workplace. So introducing a new piece of machinery might require a rethink on safety practices within that particular business. These things need to be monitored and adjusted continuously. Okay, number 6, levels of disputation. There are two main indicators of disputes, overt and covert. So overt, obvious in the open forms of disputes such as strikes or lockouts. Covert, or less obvious forms of disputes, absenteeism or even sabotage can be covert indicators of disputes. Both of these indicators are a sign of employee or employer dissatisfaction. Types of industrial conflict, overt and covert again. So overt manifestations by employees, picket lines. If you remember back in the stakeholders, there was a little tiny clip of Lisa Simpson and the workers outside the nuclear power plant with little signs protesting. So that's picketing. Strikes, where people stop going to work. Stop work meetings, where you get together and talk about stopping work. Work bans and boycotts, so we're no longer going to work with that particular machine, or we're boycotting anything that involves using, I don't know, some product from a bad person. Or work to rule. Now, work to rule means that you follow every little guideline and rule. This generally will slow down the work. Okay, so it's still working, but working very, very slowly. Okay, overt manifestations by management include lockouts. I talked about that before. Stand downs, where they stand down people, like so they fire people, which also comes into dismissals and retrenchment. Covert manifestations, so the more sly ways of showing industrial conflict by employees, absenteeism, high labour turnover, theft and sabotage, higher defect rates, so not doing your job so well so that the product is coming out poor and so it basically gets thrown away. Reduced productivity, so working slower, and lack of cooperation, so mouthing back to the boss. Covert manifestations by management include forms of discrimination, harassment, lack of cooperation, not working well with others, and excluding employees from the decision-making process. Employers should be concerned if there are a number of formal grievances reported, as they are an indicator of poor quality relationships in the workplace and can be very damaging if they attract media attention or move through the legal system. Careful investigation should indicate whether these issues relate to the policies and processes operating within the business or to specific individuals who may need further training and development or even formal counselling. Ongoing grievances are likely to be reflected in higher levels of staff turnover and industrial disputes. Dispute examples. Okay, the clips attached here aren't actually cartoons. The first clip there with Bugs Bunny is an example of a dispute within the prison system. I think, off the top of my head, that was with the prison workers doing some form of strike or shutdown. And the second clip where we see Chief Wiggum is where I think it was Victorian police were taking part in some dispute action. So give them a watch. They're not purely just fun ones, they're informational, even though there's a cartoon next to them. Okay, worker satisfaction. Worker satisfaction means employees are motivated to perform their work tasks and agree with the direction of the organisation. This indicator can be determined through employee satisfaction surveys, something we mentioned at the top that Google likes to use. Declining employee satisfaction may result in an increase in absenteeism and staff turnover rates. Factors leading to satisfaction. So employee feedback. So hearing, this is what you're doing well, this is what you could be doing better. Look, a little bit of negative feedback isn't completely negative. People need to know where they can improve to feel like they're actually achieving and moving forward. Pay is a leading factor to satisfaction, only when high levels of discrepancy. I don't know why I put that there in brackets. Only when high levels of discrepancy. Employee feedback, pay. Okay. Pay makes people quite satisfied. When there are high levels of discrepancy, that's when it can be a bit of an issue. That's what I meant. That's why it's in brackets. Good relationships with co-workers, relevant training provided, effective leadership with some quality management, having a work-life balance. So your whole world isn't work, 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 work. Everyone needs some life. Flexible working arrangements, support for emerging leaders, and a holistic approach to work relationships. All these things make us feel good about our job. Okay, this is actually the final video that I'm recording for human resource management, so I just thought I'd let you know what's coming up for the rest of this week. So today, after this video and you've done the worksheets, there's an activity in your work booklets about benchmarking that I'd like you to do. Tomorrow, in your work booklet, there is a business report for Way Out that you'll be doing. And after that, okay, I just recorded this screen and it froze and wouldn't stop, so I'll try again. So as I was saying, okay, all right, so you have a third workbook for this unit for human resource management. It is revision workbook number 3. This booklet is to be completed and submitted on or before Friday the 22nd of May to me. I need to see that you've been working, and it will motivate some of you that have been pretending. Okay, so in that work booklet there is a case study on Deliveroo. You'll be doing that on one day. I'll let you know which day. And the second thing that's in there is your topic test for human resources. Now this is no longer an assessment, but still a course requirement. If you don't do it, and awards, you know the drill. You should have received information from the school about your assessments. We have all been asked to drop one assessment from the HSC load. So this is the assessment that no longer counts for business studies. So all the other assessments have to be re-weighted to how much they're actually worth. If you haven't received this information yet, please get in touch with me and I will poke somebody with a stick to see that you get it. Okay, it's the last video I'm making for human resources. Our next unit of work will be operations. You don't have to look at me or listen to me for hopefully a little while, unless we're all back at school. Anyway, good luck guys. See you soon.